Real Talk with Rebecca Steeves Realty, talking about
safety.
Oh, I'll just get started because we have a lot of people that will call us up. You know, maybe they're asking if they can see a property and they don't want to give us their name for some reason, or email or phone number. And they think that they just want to keep their privacy because real estate agents are going to hound them if they have their information, which we're absolutely not going to do, because if you don't want to work with us, we don't want to work with you. So that's, but the thing is I even had one time a client call me up to see a property that was vacant and he didn't want to give me his name. And oddly enough, it was an RCMP officer. And when I said, look, we do this for safety. Later they became a client and they were like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But we take a lot of precautions as a female team. Mm-hmm. And I think even anyone should take precautions. We do not always take listings that are vacant and rural.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's not that you want to turn down business, but you don't want to put yourself in potentially a dangerous situation, especially places with no cell service or things like that.
Yeah, there was an incident that we read about on our board where somebody was called to go see a listing and then people tried to attack them. Luckily, they were still in their car and they were able to get away. And
there have been agents that we know who have been attacked. Yeah. And they're very vocal about safety and safety protocols now. Yeah. So
attacked with an axe.
What?
Yeah, you didn't know about this? Maybe they should review that thing again. It's it's fairly well known, but I won't mention the agent's name, but she went to a mini home and someone attacked her with an axe. I mean, one of the things, if you see an agent and they're parked out on the side of the road instead of in the driveway, allowing someone to park behind them. But we really like to get people's information before we will show them a house. And we're not going to call you up and see if we can get your business if you have expressed that you don't want to be contacted.
Yeah, like I went and I showed a house a little bit outside of town last week, and I knew it was to a guy. I was showing this guy a home. I had his number and his name and stuff, but I'd never actually met him. And I told both of you where I was going. I told my husband where I was going. He had my location that he could see on my phone. And he's like, hey, when should I expect you home? And I said, if you don't hear from me by this time, do it. Person was lovely. Now a client. It was all okay. But at the back of my mind, it's always like, if I can't, nobody was available to go with me. Like, there's been times where I've had to go out quite far to show a house. And I went and I brought my husband.
Yeah. We often...
Or we've got
if you guys aren't available, but if it's like in the evenings or on the weekends, yeah.
Same here, yeah. Even like my brother, like just whoever is around. The first time you meet somebody, or if you're going really far, things like that.
Yeah. A lot of times I recommend to meet them at the office if they are new. And there's been, quite a few situations. Well, you had one last year with a guy that had actually set up
showings.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that. I just got chills a little bit. Yeah. I just was getting a weird vibe. This person kept calling me and giving me their life story, and it sounded very suspicious. And I kind of kept it to myself, but another realtor posted in our private Facebook group, has anybody heard from a person by this name from this area? And I said, oh, I have. So I called her up and found out that he had been very inappropriate with her.
And then a few realtors chimed in. There was a number of women.
Mm-hmm. So I blocked the number, never heard from the person again, thankfully. But I'm really glad I have a feeling that they weren't even ever coming to the area. They were just being sketchy, just getting their kicks from that. But I'm glad that I never met them in person for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing too, is sometimes when we get phone calls, not only might we seem hesitant to do the showing, but if we just ever seem like, oh, we want to talk to you, but we're not, putting on like, here, know this about me and being super friendly. Like, realtors, and unfortunately, especially women realtors, get a lot of calls because our numbers are public. Our numbers are there. Our pictures are there. Anyone can call them, and people do, and they call for terrible reasons that I'm not even going to say on this, but there's been multiple occasions for myself when somebody's called me and I've started talking to them and realized that I didn't want to know what they were doing on the other side of that phone.
Well, sometimes you hear.
Yeah, and like that's like it's funny now that it's separate, but it's also awful.
In the moment, your heart just sinks to think that somebody would take advantage of the fact that all your information is personal like that. Yeah. It's so frustrating.
Yeah, and not just for ourselves for safety, but we also talked about, if you have a vacant listing, you could put cameras up. That was one of the things you talked about.
Yeah, we do that sometimes on vacant listings. We put cameras in so that we can see if somebody's even approaching the property. So that is actually a good thing for the seller, as well as for any realtors that are showing the property.
Yeah.
And we let everyone know that there's cameras there, because the ones that we are using do record your voice, which brings
to another topic there for buyers. I definitely have to warn people a lot of the time, be mindful of what you say in a property, because not all of these tools are visible. So you don't want the seller to be able to hear you either talking about how much you love the property, because that ruins your position as a negotiator. But you also don't want to criticize it too harshly, because you don't want to hurt feelings or...
Yeah, we had somebody who didn't realize they were recording, and then they turned on their camera or their Google Nest or something, and what it was somebody insulting their house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's not good that doesn't make the sellers feel good, and it also looks bad upon the other realtor and those buyers, and that's not something anyone wants. I actually had a listing, really good friends of mine, it was our listing, and they forgot about baby monitors, right? A lot of baby monitors send it to your phone, so they have it on active because they've got a baby, and they don't turn it off because it's just not something they want to forget to turn on and off. And he realized afterwards, when he looked at his phone notifications, that he was getting all this notifications and information about what all the buyers were saying. So a lot of realtors will be like, oh, there's a Ring camera. Oh, there's a Google Home or an Alexa. Make sure you don't give away your thoughts or say what your budget is or anything like that. But baby monitors are something a lot of people don't think about as well.
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't have thought about that. But I do tell people before they go in, and so many people have technology that records now. We're not supposed to be recording people without their permission. I mean, if somebody said, we have a camera in here and we're keeping it on, then...
You know when you're going in.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people don't realize,
they're so used to having the technology, they forget to give people a heads up. They're not doing it because they want to be listening in. They just forget, oh yeah, that's there.
Yeah, and they don't realize both of those instances, the sellers didn't realize till afterwards. They're like, oh, we weren't trying to. It's just something we have in our life every day. And
yeah.
We also have people, sometimes they're in the listing being like, oh, what should I offer? And blah, blah, blah. I want to go in at this. And do you think I can ask to have the couch and everything they own? And let's talk about this later.
Yeah. Trying to prep people before they go into listings to remember their comments. So it's good to, make some little notes about things.
While you're inside the house, remember what Thumper's mom always said. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you had another buyer's tip as well.
I did.
Yeah, don't drive into new construction driveways.
Oh, yeah, some buyer's tips. It was funny because where was I going the other day? And she's like, don't pull in. I'm like, oh, yeah, I learned that the hard way.
Did you get a flat tire?
When I first started in real estate, I didn't realize how many nails can be in new construction driveways. Yeah, so that's an expensive lesson.
Yeah, don't pull into new construction.
Yeah.
Don't talk about your wants in the house.
Or your dislikes.
Yes, or your dislikes.
Yeah, especially in this market where it's hard for buyers, which this market, that's a subject in itself. I mean, I know there's realtors that are talking about the stats.
Which you love to do.
Which I love to do. But in fact, it's a very strange market this spring.
We keep wavering. Sometimes we talk about how it almost feels like 2021. There's a period of absolute frenzy, craziness. But then there are other listings that just sit on the market longer than you would expect them to. So it does feel
Yeah, and you don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are weird and unfortunate things that happen, like something's been on the market for 150 plus days and you have 2 buyers ask you about it within 24 hours. You're like, when it's not your own listing, you're like, why do you both want this?
We've had that happen in the past too, though, where a house has sat on the market for a really, really, really long time, and then you get 4 offers on it in one weekend.
Oh,
So,
yeah. That
strange.
was the one out in Burton.
Million
Burton.
plus, yeah.
Yeah.
It was so random.
I know.
Yeah.
That was, but again, this market, I think there's 2 things happening here. I think a lot of buyers are pulling out of the market for 2 reasons. They were hoping for that mortgage decrease.
They were waiting for rates to drop this time, which they didn't do.
Yeah. And so, high interest rates, really low inventory. And I do think it's happening more in the under 400,000. It's a 2021. There's multiple offers almost every time. But above that price, it's a little bit different. And
we have fewer buyers coming from out of province who have the cash that the way that they did. So those bigger homes that were more likely to sell really quickly don't have quite the same number of buyers that they did.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. In that low number, like I remember there was a house a few weeks ago and I offered with my buyer and we were one of 16. And then like a week later, a similar house came on the market and we were one of 15. We joked. She's like, all right, when are we going to be the number 1 for the next one when there's 14 offers? Luckily she did get a house. Yay for listings over Easter weekend.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people were away, so there were less offers. Yeah, if you're a buyer, there's another buyer's tip. Go searching on the holidays because...
For our sellers, we don't recommend
Yeah.
listing right before the holiday.
That's the opposite.
Yeah.
The other thing in this market, which was really unusual this weekend, so we've talked a few times about the military and how that affects this market. It's posting season now, and I went the other day to a street for the first time and they had 8 listings.
You didn't even drive from one appointment to the
No, we
next.
walked.
You walked.
Wasn't it every single house on that street that was for sale?
No, there's, I don't know how many there are, but there might be 20 houses on that street that are exteriorly look almost the same. They're all split entries. There's a few different builders there. The insides are quite different, like the interiors, and the exteriors are slightly different, but they all kind of have the same footprint. But it was one property went on, like this one agent was talking to me the other day. She goes, we put our property up and then boom, 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 boom. There was 8 more.
Yeah. Well, on the market 2 went today. I was looking at new listings. It wasn't even 9:00 and there were 2 houses, both split entries on the same street.
Oh, what street was that?
In
Wasis.
Wasis.
Oh, okay.
Willowdale or something like that.
Yeah. So again, a military posting, right?
Yeah.
So everything.
And then they're all in that over 400 price range, which has slightly less buyers than the 2 to 3s.
Yeah.
And I always warn buyers right now, like, it's not just the regular competition. You are competing with people who are being posted to the area.
They have to find
a little bit of
place.
an increase in number of buyers, a little bit of an increase in competition.
And also the buyers don't care as much if they might slightly overpay because the military pays their fees on the way out. They pay their realtor fees.
They pay for a loss as well up to a certain amount, right?
Yeah, I don't know what, it keeps changing, so I'm not really sure about that number, but it's definitely,
Something that happens.
yeah, impactful for anybody that's not military looking in some of the areas that are
But it's
more-
also good for a lot of our sellers. We've told them this is kind of the time to get your house on the market because there are more buyers coming into town who might be interested, especially areas close to the base and Hanwell and things like that too. So
Yeah, and that's another way we are so different from not just the rest of the province, but the rest of the country other than these little pockets. Everywhere says like spring's the best time to list, but it's so much more true if you're in such a, like, I don't know if transient's the right word. It sounds like a bad thing.
Well, posting in and out. And also in Fredericton, because we're also the headquarters for the RCMP.
And we're a university town. Like
government.
Yeah.
We've
So there's-
got so many things that...
Yeah. So I wonder what's going to happen. They're talking about making a mandatory buyer's agency agreement. Did you know that?
Is this provincially or?
Yeah, from the provincial association, which means that buyers are going to have to sign on with a realtor if they want a buyer's agent.
I do see some benefits to that. Not that I necessarily think anything should be mandatory, but it's beneficial to a buyer to have an agent who is looking out for their interests rather than just bouncing around between listing agents, for example. But I know that, buyers don't necessarily want to be tied to a person. They just want to get their information from whichever source. So I could see that being an interesting turn of events here.
I feel like in most cases, better for us, right? Then we're not worried, like we spend all this time working with one person and, but they saw another house on the weekend.
They went to an open house.
Yeah, went to an open house and just bought it through that person. And you're like crushed because you spent hours of your time with this one person and they're just gone and you feel used.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like that is part of, the job. And if we're tying a buyer to ourselves, what if we don't end up liking them? What if we don't vibe right? What if they dislike us and they feel like they have to stay with us because we've got this contract in place?
We can always have a mutual release.
Yeah.
I hate you. You hate me back. It's all good.
Break up.
Let's break up.
An official breakup.
Yeah.
But it makes it more awkward than if they just ghost you.
Very curious. And I also think just the fact that it's something new,
Well, I think
people don't adapt.
One of the big problems with it for our area, again, is going to come back to the BGRS, which is the military posting organization that manages all the fees and stuff. Because if you sign a buyer's agency agreement with a military house hunter or RCMP, they will remove you from the BGRS list. So that's going to pose an interesting thing of how realtors can get paid if you're not allowed to do that, but yet it's mandatory. So that, I don't know if that's something.
What are they going to do?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Definitely further consultation required from all stakeholders. So
Yeah. I have a funny story.
Also, I really have to pee.
I have a funny story about peeing.
Okay. Let's
Go.
I think
Tell
it's
me.
funny. I was doing a new construction open house for a builder, and I did not realize that there was no water on. And it was 10 minutes before the open house was scheduled to start. And I realized there was no place to pee. So I went out into the woods and had.
Oh my God. When was this?
Oh, when I was first in real estate. Yeah. It'd probably be like the first year or something.
And you know what, though? It's stories like these where we learn all of our lessons that we pass on to our clients about turning the water on and off in a house or
making sure the water's on in a house.
Yeah, all these different lessons. We learned those the hard way for your benefit.
Yeah. Make sure the doors don't automatically lock behind you so you
yes.
without your shoes on outside.
Soggy feet.
Yeah.
Okay, you can go pee now.
All right. Well, thanks for watching this one.